Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? You don't have
Good.
to do video. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, cool. Because I was like having my cigarette finally.
Aw,
How
I
are
totally
you?
understand. Good, good.
Great. I love dream big. That's a good thing to think about
Oh
or to
yeah,
do.
right. It's good to make time to dream a little.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Yes. I have been like wavering today, like, oh my God, it's such a big day. And it's like life, and it's like, oh, stay centered. So this is good.
Yeah. And so we are currently recording, just so you know.
Okay.
And we
Yeah,
going.
let me know. It was like, you want to leave or you want to stay? I'm good.
Like recording in progress.
Hmm.
Oh man. So you're on production right now, is that right?
Yeah, we just finished. Well, no, I have one more shoot tomorrow. Um, it's funny, like I'm working on the sketch comedy show, and we're just building content, and it's really great. Yeah, so but it's just like when I'm in town, I get to just do it, hit it hard, and then I leave on Wednesday. So,
Wow. Wait, is
um,
this in Mexico City?
no, so I'm back in Oakland. Yep, I just
Oh,
got
welcome back.
here. Yeah, I got back. Thank you. I got back Thursday. So, but I am about to be gone from Oakland, and I'm gonna move to Mexico City.
Oh, you're gonna move. Wow.
Hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
I know. I'll probably do like two more trips, but I'll go look for my place, and my work is gonna be what I do in my body, so I could be anywhere for that. But yeah, I had a really good time. Have you been there before?
I have not yet.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't either. That was my first time, and I was blown away. I love like nature, and I'm like a city child.
Yeah.
But so that's like the intersection of both. It was just really crazy. Let me close this window. It was just really beautiful, green, and then buildings popping out of like this forest kind of city. It felt like, and I don't know. I just kind of fell in love.
I'm sold. I need to be
Yeah,
careful because I can
yeah,
only pack a bag and you're like, I'm right behind you.
yeah. Well, you got my number. We hang out.
Rad. Love it.
Okay.
Dude, so I spent like the last 3 hours going through your catalog
Oh
and I'm just
wow.
like, oh my gosh, like no way we could only have a 1 hour conversation because there's so
Right.
much and it's rich and
Hmm.
I'm I'm just in awe.
Wow.
And of course got nervous at the very last moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like talk to this person now after going through all their stuff. I was like, no, it's cool, it's cool.
Yes, it's totally cool. We're cool.
Because we met before in person.
Yeah, that was the best because it was like one time, right? We we had
Right.
that day, and I'm sure I saw you like two times or three times, but that day was really like working together and behind the scenes and fixing the errors and making people sound good, and yeah, it was great. I had thought we were
Yeah.
gonna be working together a lot after that. That's what I thought, and then it was like, oh,
I thought so too, but
right,
I'm so open to the way the world just kind of happens. So
yeah,
I wasn't surprised, but I knew that like I could always pick up with any of these people anytime.
totally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like, where should we start?
Yeah.
Where would you like to start? Is there anything that's like front of center for you that you'd
You
like
know
to
what
share?
is? I'm glad you just asked that. Like,
Hmm.
I think recently I've been, hmm, I've always felt like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And I never necessarily, I didn't not like the human experience growing up. I was like, yeah, having fun and stuff. And as
Hmm.
you grow up, you just start seeing so many different parts of humanity, right? That may not all be like what you imagine, maybe not even how you center yourself. And you're like, whoa, that's really pretty not rad, that's just not a
Yeah.
cool thing that we're doing, and it's like every day, like I try not to get into the news too much or anything like that, but some things seep in and you're just like, what's going on, and I think today that question just hit me in a way, just seeing, I kind of fell and saw some news today or whatever, and I was like, oh, right.
Just today.
Yeah, today I slipped and looked at something and was just reading, and sometimes you just keep scrolling and looking at the news. And I was like, "Oh, stop this now!"
Right.
It's just because it feels like, I guess my point is like this, like I know there's so much bigger, so much great stuff in the world. I focus on that a lot, and then there's also a lot of sadness and stuff. And when it seeps in, I kind of get like, I wouldn't use the word depressed, but more so just like saddened, like, oh.
Yeah. Was it about Olivia Newton-John?
I mean, that was one thing. You're so good. That was great. Totally why my day is so bummed.
I know. Greece will never be the same.
Yeah, honey, I would say that definitely. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God. Like, that's so, sorry. That was really good. Yeah, it was.
No need to apologize.
That was great. That's what it was, right?
Yeah. I told you we were going to giggle through this whole thing.
I can't. I need to giggle so much. I'm so happy that this is happening today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Because I feel like, I don't know if you get into the 8-8 day and like this portal alliance. Yeah, right. Yes. And it's like,
look at my avatar. It's like full of stars.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, yeah. I'm as witchy as it comes. I have leaned in to the astrology hardcore just because like it's fascinating. So yeah. The 8-8 portal, I definitely had like the synchronicities today. I was like, oh wow, like things are manifesting like almost instantly. Yeah,
I love that. So
how's it showing up for you today?
Well, I think it's like I'm saving myself every time I kind of slip into this, like, oh my God, it's like, no. Yes. Like everything is important, and it's all of us are super part of this huge thing that, beyond us, it's going to keep going. I think we talk about, climate change and all this stuff, and I see it and we feel it, but I don't know if the earth is going to like do anything. It might shake us off and then do what it needs to do, Right. But so I feel this real urge to keep on my path and not allowing the outside forces to seep in, so it's like an interesting, like, back and forth, or that matrix like move that Keanu Reeves does. You're like, whoa, let me get out of here. You're not about to get me with that.
Right.
So I think like a little bit before this, like, finishing late, I'm like, oh God, hurry up. I'm like, Khalil, slow down. It's okay. Like, let's just do, be in your body, take a moment and like breathe. And so having this conversation right now feels really good because that's what I've been attempting to do all day. But right now I just kind of found it. I'm like, oh, there it is, but all day I'm like, no, Khalil, no. I'm like, okay, you're right. Stay on what I'm doing. Focus on this. This is great work. And then you leave and you walk past this homeless person or you see this, this encampment and you're like, oh, so I've just been kind of keeping my, what's a good way to say this? Keeping like my themes together, like trying not to bust them and just being a little bit more, understanding, kind of like I don't get it all, but I know there's a greater purpose, and moving like that is what always saves me. But I think it's cool that this conversation is happening because I do feel grounded right now, which feels
it's great,
really good. Yeah,
I definitely did a grounding before, and I was kind of happy that you're like, let me wait. I was like, oh my gosh, like I get a whole extra hour to ground myself before this conversation. And I like what you were saying about, keeping parts of yourself kind of like intact and like not letting it like blend into the other worlds that you're interacting with, because you could, end up losing your focus or your concentration on where you really want to keep your energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all the things you mentioned about the Matrix, and then like slipping by looking at the news, because it could kind of like shift you out of the state of mind that you want to be in.
Yeah, Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
do you do it?
yeah. How do I do it? Well, lots of practice, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
I always think of divine timing, and it's
Mm.
like this real practice of like surrender.
Yeah.
Like just let it go. Like
Ugh.
you have to like believe that whatever is for you is going to be there at
Yeah.
at the time that it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
And then you have to trust that the
Yeah.
time that it's meant to happen is the best time for it to happen.
Right.
I can't
Right.
say it's an easy thing to really believe or trust into. It's a daily practice.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
It's a daily practice. Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think something that I saw last week was like, we say let it go. And then this guy was talking about how it's like let it be, just this kind of I think when you said the divine timing, it hit me again. I'm like, oh right, of course. And I like let it go. I like let it be. I think, let it go just kind of feels like you just, you know, let some weight go, like this
Yeah.
weightlessness, or you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it feels lighter.
Very
And then let it,
accessible. Yeah.
yeah, and then let it be. I could be honest and say that feels a little harder sometimes for me, where I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
okay,
feel it.
you know what I mean? And then it's like when you just said divine time and all that, it's like, it all makes sense again when you're like, oh, right, it's going to do what it's going to do. Now, what
Mm.
are you doing in that space? And how are we, thankful, like, for whatever it is that we have. And I love the trust and the believe and the faith, right? Like
Yeah.
that it will make sense, whatever that may be.
Even when it doesn't.
Even when it doesn't, honey. Because, yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, a lot
um,
of it does not make sense. Yeah, I love what you were saying about how we're all part of this bigger thing that's
yeah,
happening. And like how you said that we have to show up in our own way within everything that's happening around us.
exactly.
So like even
Yeah.
if someone didn't believe in like a higher power, a higher being, language is really something I find what sometimes divides us or
Sure.
confuses us because we might say something but it'll mean something different when someone else hears it.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to let it be. I got triggered when you said that too. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, like sometimes I don't want things to be as they are because it's not cool or
Right.
I'm not okay
Right.
with this. I don't want to let that be.
Right.
But to let something go.
I want it to be something,
Yeah, I want it to be
right.
something else.
Totally, right? But let it go. It's like, okay, who bye
Yeah.
child, and then you kind of don't look at it anymore, but it
Uh-huh.
could possibly still be there, but it's not,
Yeah. It's not no longer in my hands.
Exactly. Exactly.
Amazing. Hmm.
I would love to hear what you think about the music.
Oh man.
um, and I
Yeah.
want to preface this, if you don't mind, really quick, just because. Sorry, turn the water on.
No worries.
I don't lead with anything. Well, that's not true. Like when we met, I'm working at the Black Music Incubator. I'm doing production and event planning. So, I wouldn't be like, hey, I have a new song coming out. I don't necessarily infuse myself in there, but I have, it's something that I'm very passionate about. It's my career. Um, so it's really interesting when I can hear people, or like the way that was shared, right? Like, oh, we're doing interviews, so I'm gonna listen to what you do, and then it was like, oh wow, you listened, um, yeah, it would be really interesting
Well, I'm
to
glad
hear.
that I did go through the sound catalog. um, I don't think I knew how much involved in music you were when I met you. I think at
Right.
the time I saw like a bit of a CD and I knew that you did dance. Like I kind of saw you as like a performance artist, but for whatever reason, and it's a funny thing about divine timing, how like you only like see certain things in a moment in time. But then today I find out like, oh my gosh, like he has like albums and albums of stuff.
Yeah.
But probably the most exciting part for me was that you're really into house music. And I don't know that many people who are into house music because I love house music.
Oh my God, right?
Like house music and disco were probably playing all the time when my parents got together because that's like the music that gets me up and moving.
Yeah.
And sadly, I know a lot of songs if I hear them, but then I don't know the artists all the time.
Right.
Like I'm aware of Frankie Knuckles. I'm aware of like Italian disco and Chicago really kind of like starting the whole thing and everything kind of coming out of that.
Yeah.
But then I was excited. I was like, okay, cool. This is going to be easy to get through this. But then it was hard because, you know, house tracks are long.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to have time to get through this? But what was exciting was like, as I'm listening, sometimes like halfway through some of your songs, like the pace would change. And, you know, like when that 4 on the floor starts.
Yes.
You just start moving your shoulders, you're bopping side to side, shaking your head, and then you just get lost in time. And I really appreciate that you dial into that. And there's tons of other tracks I found. I did make a list. Tons of other tracks that were not exactly like house, like right. On the dance floor, but I really appreciated how narrative those tracks were of just like a creative person.
Oh,
so what I'll start with my favorite track and then a couple other tracks, and then I'll talk about the latest one.
Okay.
So my favorite track overall just happened to have been the very last one that I listened to, which was Brown Curls.
Oh, cute. Okay.
And probably because it's like you can see yourself in the track. I'm definitely like, I'm on a whole thing right now with like self-care and self-love and inner child and doing all the inner work. So it kind of really spoke to that younger part of me that really loved dancing to house music.
Right.
And going to the clubs and stuff. Also, the video was super fun, like the runway. Definitely like kind of brought me back to my club days.
I love that.
Pink Elephant. Well, actually, the whole Junebug album.
Wow, right.
I really enjoyed that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones too.
And Vertically Challenged was something that really, it moved me in a good way.
Yeah.
Sure, we could talk more about that. And then Misty Morning, which I also found another track off the Junebug album, Mama Mama. Yeah. It just had like a different vibe about it. And I would like to ask you about songs that kind of get remixed into new tracks, because that's something I experience as a musician. Like sometimes you feel a vibe one day, and then sometimes the vibe is different. I won't go too much more into this because I do want you to talk more than myself. But,
okay.
But the first track I listened to was the most recent one that I found, Metamorphosis.
Okay.
And I really liked that one with some of the lyrics because, well, one, you could actually like run the whole thing on loop and it just like flows seamlessly into beginning again, much like what we see on like those short reels.
Yeah, right.
Platforms, like it just works. And I had to like actually check back to see how long the track was because I had already listened to it like 4 or 5 times in a row. I didn't realize.
Yeah. It definitely does that. That's so fun to hear.
Yeah. But I like the line, how much time have we lost? It's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
like caterpillar, cuckoo, like nothing but a metamorphosis. It's like, yeah, sometimes it's good to have a reminder of like how we're evolving and things
Yeah.
change.
And it's really interesting with that one too, because I recorded that like 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, it's kind of those things where you're like, oh, I liked it. I think it was a little bit before its time for me. Like I thought I was like, I mean, it feels very like, I mean, I always call it like Khalil Anthony meets Run DMC.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just kind of the beat is just so not like what I do. I guess I would say it like that. Or what I've done before. But that one, I feel like the fact that it came out so much later than I made it, and it's obviously about time, like you said, and metamorphosis and how it changed. It just always, when I hear it, I just think about like, wow, like it still feels current. It definitely message wise. I'm really big on like lyrics, where I think, even in house music is this, it always has this real folk pay attention to what you're saying thing, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
always really like, I don't want to just be like, love you, love you, love you, like that's not what I'm, I think love is really important, but I feel like it's like, how can we tell a story of this something else that is like, oh, I saw the love in there, I saw this and that. Um, so it feels like, as old as it is for me, it feels very new, because obviously like I'm changing from the beginning of this conversation to right now, and
Yeah.
how important it is to like remark on those moments and just appreciate the temporary reality of life. Like it is always changing. You look at
Yeah.
something long enough, the image will change too, right? Like it's like, so how are we, even to turn back to what we were saying earlier, it's like, how are we looking at the world we live in? Like I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sad this is happening. You look over and it's like this budding, flower, or these birds flying in the sky, and you're like, well, what am I focusing on, right? What am I focusing on?
Yeah.
There's so much to see. Yeah. So that's cool. That's why I wanted to just jump in there then, because I was just like, oh yeah, that one to me says so much, because it was 12 years ago, and then hearing it now, I'm like, whoa, how much change has happened then? How much change is always happening? And
Right.
it's like, oh, let's not rest on anything and just keep moving with it.
Mm,
Um,
I love that.
yeah, yeah, that's a cool one. And I think, it's funny because the Junebug album, so I got to work with this guy. His name is Malik Crumpler. Are you
Mm-hmm.
from Oakland?
I'm not from New York City.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think you were from here. But I mean, not like that. Like Oakland's amazing, but I think nobody's really from here that I really. I mean, I do know a lot of folks who are, but it's a bunch of us obviously who aren't.
Yeah.
And Junebug, so this guy named Malik Crumpler. Now he lives in Paris, but I met him. Oh shucks, when I met him, actually he lived in Brooklyn, but he's from Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the music on my second album, Train, and then Junebug, and then Scarab album is just a remix of the Junebug album, right? So
Nice.
he's just such a big musical aspect to me. But the Junebug album, I recorded it in Paris, like on his couch. I think he sent me like 8 tracks, just all this music, and I like starting to write lyrics. And then when I got to the song, he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna scrap those songs." He talks just like that. "Hey man, we're gonna scrap those songs. I got some new songs. You ready?" And it was like, okay, like it's something about how in certain situations you'd be like, "No, I have these
Right.
songs," and and it was like, I'm always so gung ho to be working with him, so I was like, okay, and we literally recorded all of that in like 4 hours,
What?
5 hours, something crazy, something
Amazing.
crazy. Like, yeah, it was one of those things. I think I was just I think I was living in Berlin at the time. Um, I lived there for like a year and a half, and it was. I was just so open, because Berlin is. I was gonna say crazy, but like, it's very sane actually, right? Like, it's just this
Yeah.
place of like, oh my god, I am so free. Like, what have I been
Berlin is, yeah, I
holding
love
back,
Berlin.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
just really great. And I think I was so open, so I spent the weekend in Paris, and I went to his house to record, and it was just like, we just kept going, bam, bam, bam. And that album, it came out on Prince's birthday, who is
nice.
obviously an influence in my music, right? Like,
Yes, I
and
did hear. I
you
didn't
can
want to
hear a little
say.
Prince, honey. No, I love when people do it because sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I just heard this song, and I swear this is you," and they'll play this amazing Prince song, and I'm like, "Girl, like, thank you, but that is not me, honey." you know. Um, but yeah, he's a huge influence in my life. I think the idea of like growing up to see this, black man, Puerto Rican man, this man, in high heels and panties and no shirt and this black trench coat was just like, okay,
Yes,
that's what's up, and I think
yes,
just my own evolution into my queerness and my blackness and my musicianness and just being like, oh my God, it's like a whole vibe. There it is, like the vibe,
totally.
it's like this person is like, something. So I've always felt like I don't know what I was gonna say. I'm like, this person is something, but it's like
We don't
it's a
have words.
whole right.
It's
It's
a
a
symbol.
parade. It's just yeah, my God. So I felt always like with my music, it's like I want to, continue to make music, but I wanted to mean something. Like, and I don't find the joy in like, hey, look at me, I do this, I do. That's not my position
Hmm.
ever. I feel like it's played in the clubs in the world still, which is great, and the house world won't throw away any song they love. Right? They will
Yeah.
play it forever. They will remix like this song I did, "Where You Are." They remixed it 5 times, and like
I
every
love
year,
that.
I'm just like, yeah, they're like, hey, we got a new one. And I'm like, cool, like I love it. Um, and it's helped to pay for my life, which is
Yay.
cool, you know. So yeah, I think the experience, because today it's like your music, obviously I'm sure music forever, like people get paid for it, or whatever, right? But like the way it works now, it's so like you can listen to everybody's album forever, and the person gets a penny,
Right.
for everything. So it has to be, I know for myself, when I have a song release, it's like this, I make a party for myself. And
Hmm.
then I let it go, the expectations of anything happening, right? Like, I'm like, okay, like I just listened to it 10 times, had a good time. Now, if I never have nobody listen to it again, I'm going to be okay, And it feels like
Mm.
that's been my practice with the music because it's just so, it could be difficult to continue doing that work if
Yeah.
you are expecting to become Beyonce or some weird thing,
Right.
that like, and I'm not that big into like I have 5,000, 500,000 followers. That's not my jump either, So it's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
how do you still remain the vibe without being the everybody's vibe per se? Does that make sense? Like, kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah, where it's like this, like I'm the vibe, I'm the vibe, I'm the vibe, I'm the vibe. It's like, oh, girl, okay, I see, and then it's like I feel like I walk out the door, like I'm the vibe, there's an aura around me, and that sustains me, opposed to I gotta be like, this person, or I have to make this much money, or have these many fans for me to feel like I've made a change in the world.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hearing a distinction between how our ego wants to be represented and like
Mm-hmm.
our intention behind why we're making music. I mean, I definitely like
Right.
grew up wanting to be a rock star and wanting to do all
Yeah.
the things and had plenty of opportunities to do that. And I always turned them down because at some point I just didn't feel aligned with
Mm-hmm.
giving up my privacy and being a celebrity.
Yeah.
There's just something
Yeah.
about it that I didn't feel comfortable around. And obviously, we could do a whole thesis on self confidence, but
Yeah.
it definitely informed the way that I wrote music and shared my music. And I really like how you said that you'll make a party for yourself to then release the music to the public. And it really is kind of like that. Like it's a birthing. Like
Yes.
you birth this creation and then you're going to present it to the world, and it's like when the boat is leaving the shore. Like, okay,
Yes.
off you go.
Right.
My creative baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have children, right? Like fleshy babies, right? But I have
Same.
so many offspring, right? Or all so many babies who just are not breathing and needing milk and all that stuff. So I've always looked at my work as like this birthing process.
Yep.
Really love that more so than changing diapers. Like I don't know.
Of course.
I've been like, I would love to have one, but you gotta come when you're 5 years old.
Oh.
You've already read the book of me and you know how your dad wants you. No, but I find it easier to take care of a song than
Of
a
course.
full-fledged life, right? Yeah.
Of course.
So I take it like that. Everybody, my life is so interesting because I grew up with, a lot of great people, whatever. And a lot of people look at me like, oh my God, I'm so envious of your life. You do this, this, and this. And it's like, I think, obviously being a parent is really important because, our parents made us and we get to create this life and stuff. But I think I'm always really shaking when people say that to me because I'm like, no, it's, we're all here doing the thing. And it's like, I wouldn't trade my life for anybody because, people might see something and it's like, oh, da, da, da. And it's like, I still get sad, I might, not necessarily in a relationship now or whatever, but like work is my relationship. So then it's like, I look at people who have these families. I'm like, oh, like that looks nice. But at the same time, I don't think I would ever switch. It's just kind of like we all are doing very impressive things, no matter what it is, right? And I think raising a child would be at the top of that for some reason. It's just like it's a big thing.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always like the grass is greener, and people don't realize like how much work goes into creating or nurturing something that you have an emotional attachment to.
Yeah.
And, of course, songs are not babies, like baby humans or dogs or cats, right? But it's something that we're emotionally bonded to, that we put time and our own energy into and our love into. So it's not really something that we should envy for the other. And a lot of times, we think we want something and then we get it, and it's like, no.
Right.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you don't want that to be like a baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
it's like,
oh, 3 months in, I think I'm good. Like, no,
the commitment's totally different. Yeah.
Totally. But I think, like sound like what you were saying too, it's like, because I'm working on my fourth studio album now, like self-promoted and whatever. And it's it's just interesting because I'm sure this process that I go through, I've done it before, but you have these very rough recordings, right? Or like I have these words I might write. And you get the music and it's still rough. It's not mixed or mastered yet. But then I'm like, okay, what's the album? What's the order? Like I'm already like, what's the order of the album before the sound is there? And obviously this will change. But this process of like listening to this all over again, then I got, the producer will fine tune things and I record again. Then they'll mix and master. And then it's time to think about the art. And then it's like, and then, but I find it to be, I was flying back and I was doing the order and writing like little notes. And I was like, oh, wow, like how many years have I done this, And this process feels new every time because I've heard the song, I'm sure 800 times, every one of these songs. But in my mind right now, I have to make it fresh every time, right? I can't be like, oh, here's this song again, like, no.
Yeah.
And then when it actually comes out, I maybe have a good week of still enjoying. Not to say I don't like it, but like I won't listen to it that much because I heard it so much.
Yes.
And then it'll surprise me when I hear it. I'm like, oh wow, I remember, like, okay, I'm open to hearing it again. But yeah, I feel like it's such it's a process. I think our process or like working in process of work or creating is so divine, right? And holy, and like how you respect it. And then when it comes out, thinking like, oh, this is gonna do all these things for other people. It's like, I can't. Like I said earlier, I have to clip that part. So I'm like, okay, like you said, you push the boat off in the water, or it's like the bottle with the note in it, and who knows if anybody will ever see that note, but they do, there will be people who do. But I want to detach from the expectation of what that looks like in this world, because it's, I got 5 million streams, or I made this, or I'm on tour, this, that, I get the value of all of that. And I've done tours, and I've made, like I said, this music has helped me do a lot of things in my life.
Nice.
And I feel like it has to be bigger than that, right? Like, it has to mean something to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because it immediately reminded me of how if we give and give and give, we're just giving it away with no guarantee of it coming back to us, right? Like whether it's in the form of like views, clicks, or fan mail, that sort of thing. But when we create something with the intention of meaning, that we know we can always look back to it and feel good about what we created, because it was from something that we had like full intention to create, something to feel proud of. And there's kind of like a regeneration of energy. It's almost like we fill our own cup back up.
Yeah, that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. Like right when you started talking, I thought about how, like, at times when you're working or doing stuff and maybe not feeling appreciated, you can feel like the depletion of your energy or your cup or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this, like, I think that's the kind of what I'm avoiding, like what I don't want, right? Like my practice has created ceremonial releases or ceremonial aspects to the creation, because at the end of the day, you can be like, oh, you made a song, great, who cares, right? Like, but no, I participated in this age-old form of artistry. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've worked with people all over the world, like it's just such a, and sometimes I have never even met them in person still, right? Like the way technology works. So then you start going into something for myself, right? That's bigger, because I want to be connected to, all of us in the sense that we already are, but sometimes you feel so disconnected, right? So if the work was just about like making the money and boop and running, I mean, I would put a ceremony around that too. But right now I'm able, in my mind, to do a lot more work with this. Like I still have my production work that I really care about. I write for a lot of different things, and I move through the world in a way that I feel like I'm creating some synergy around a vibe, right? Like the creation or creativity or renaissance, something that's like sustainable here. Because I feel like there's nothing that really is, but like my art practice is, right? Like my commitment to being, the best I can be today is there. And like, with production value of the work, right? Like, so it's like, oh, this has, you can't really, we can say, I don't like that music or but we can talk about the musicality of it, and it's happening. It's not like, oh, that was whatever,
Right.
And I feel like that makes me feel successful, right? Where obviously we live in a world, a capitalist world, where you need money to pay your rent, you need to move through the world. And of course, we love to get paid well for how we do things. I'm not saying that by any means. But I also feel like there's layers and levels to it, right? Like with that, I've been paid really well for things I haven't felt proud about. And that feels weird. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I spent my money or bought what I bought and kept moving. But like the initial exchange felt like, oh, very transactional and not the spiritual, creative juice that I like. Like you, we make choices. You're like, I don't think so. Because I always imagine having an empty cup, but having to perform and then having to do an interview and having to do all that, and I can't even see it. Like for me, because when my cup is empty, I'd be like, oh, honey, I'm tired.
We're
I
done.
don't got no time. I'm done because I need to
Yeah.
rest and get my cup back up, So, um, yeah.
So I did a little light Google searching, or I should say web searching, because I actually don't use Google. Um, don't cancel me.
Yeah, please.
But I found all over the African diaspora an immersive global 5-day Black house music film experience. And I got
Oh,
super excited, but sad that I missed it because it was so recent. I was like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Um, Tell me about that.
gladly. Um, yeah. So speaking about like the house world, right? So, let's think. So obviously from Chicago, my cousins all were DJs, relatively bad DJs, but they were DJs, and they they weren't that great. And not to say I ever saw them like play outside because I was really young, but they would play all the time, and just I feel like it was pop music in Chicago. You just heard house music all the time.
Mhm.
So I always had a love for it. Never ever had any ambition to be like involved in the genre of house. Like that was not ever a thing.
Wow.
Then
Yeah.
my first album came out in 2007, and then the second album came out in 2013, and it's called Train. And then this guy from Sheffield, his name, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget it. But I won't say he's a great DJ. His name will hit me in a second. He asked, I met him actually, sorry. So I was teaching in Leeds, England for a little bit and met this guy in Sheffield. That Man Monks is his name. That Man Monks. He's like, hey, can I remix these two songs? He
Nice.
remixes two songs off of my second album, and those songs like crazy, just really big in a way that I had never known in music, right? Like
Nice.
tangible. It was like, whoa. And then we made some more music, and then it's like in that world, it's like, hey, I heard your track. I want to make music for you. Hey, I got this track. You want to be on it? And then, for me, it was all about having some discernment. And since I'm from Chicago, I was like, well, if I don't like the song, I'm not singing on it. It's easy.
Right.
It's like, like, bam. Anyway, boom. So then fast forward to 2017, moved to Berlin, and I was with these group of people, and we started this organization called Woodwork, which is all about like reclaiming house and techno and screaming at the top of our lungs. It's Black form. Chicago, Detroit, stop playing. They be like, no, London and Berlin. I'm like, girl, you wish. No. Always. I was like, what do you think? What did you create ever in London? Like, I love London. Like, musically, what have you created?
Different.
Like, it's just different. Don't do it. Right. And then from there, this person that so first time I came to Oakland, 2000. When I moved here? No, it's a lie. 1997. Excuse me. 1998. I came. Met this woman named DJ, filmmaker, and with Woodwork, this is 2017, 18, 19. She wanted to be a part of the group. We started talking about films, right? Like, I think it would be really great to do a festival around house music, and techno music. And like, how does that work? And then her and I kind of split off, and the Bijou Film Festival was born. And the first year, 100% online, because it was maybe, what was the second form of COVID? The Delta virus or something. So we were all inside. So we had a really successful first year. Because in my mind, I'm like, who's gonna, send movies? I was really scared. Who's gonna send films? I was like, it's gonna be like 12 films, So we had like 350 submissions from over 30 countries.
Wow.
Right? Like it was unbelievable. That's like the most recent thing I had done or worked with a person and created that blew me away. Like I had no idea the desire was there, none. And last year the films were really great, right? Like I felt like I think I was just big eyed the whole year, like whoa. Yeah. So we had a big commitment to do all of this on Juneteenth, just because I think sometimes people hear house and techno, they're like that's not Black music. And it's like, no, it is. Even Black folks, right? Like Black folks will say that. Like, I don't like that shit. That's white stuff. You're like,
I'm like, who's singing those tracks?
Right. Where they recorded somebody's basement, like on 67th Street in Halsted, like these places in
Yes.
these cities that are Black, you know.
Like, do you
So we were like,
remember CNC Music Factory? Like,
honey, just
what
all
happened?
of it. Right, right. You know, or just Black people in music generally, right? What do they do always? It's like, oh, give me
Exactly.
that track. You know, we about to. So we wanted to make sure we put it during Juneteenth. And then
Perfect.
this year we got like, oh my God, from 40 different countries, almost 500 films. And
Wow.
quality was bananas. Like it was, like I said, because last year I don't think it was 4 people looking at films. This year I think it was just her and I and a
Wow.
couple. Yeah, we did the bulk, and there was like other people did a couple. But I was blown away. Like the quality was beautiful. Last year the top place was Uganda, and then top again was Uganda, and I'm just like, that's the kind of festival I want to be involved in. Yeah, so
Mhm.
we just finished this second one, and we start with the fundraising world and all that stuff in September. But I'm super excited about what it looks like. You know, we had about like one, two, two, no, 3 in-person events this year, which was really great. And the idea around the festival is that, maybe after year 5, we'll move from Oakland and then go to different cities.
Yeah.
It all depends on how we
How the
deal
world
with
is.
diseases and pandemics, right? But
Yeah.
it's just really nice to see that work. I think it was crazy to see how much people had electronic music. They had the films already. They're not making films for our festival, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was great to like say something out loud, not know that it was really a bigger community out there, and then be plopped in it. Where 2 years with the festival, I think people really enjoyed. This last year, we got more press than we've had before, and I just see a lot of growth for following years. So it's something I'm really excited. DJ and I, got together and created this idea.
That's so awesome. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Because in a
Thank
way,
you.
it sounds like you didn't really know what was possible or who would be out there to receive it. And then you
Totally.
find out you actually just created a space for everyone to come to that was looking for
Exactly.
it all along.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that you hit it on the head. It's literally like, let's do this, and not knowing that, yeah, there you go. Like we said at the beginning, it's like divine timing. It's like
Mm,
you know it when you know it, right? Because we could have been like, let's do it. And in my head, it meant getting 12 films and having this hard time trying to put the festival together, right? But the reality was, no, you're turning down film. The best films, and what we just showed, the 25 films to 30 this year. But there's
wow.
50 great films. You know what I mean? Like, we already said our number, and it's like, So,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah, I feel really, oh, it's so good to think about it. That's the one thing that it happened this year, and I was like, wow, I'm really proud of this,
Yay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Don't worry about the space. It's good to
Oh, no, I like
just
to.
sit and integrate. Mm. Was that the most recent thing that you wanted to talk about today, or
Bijou Film Festival. What
or
else recent?
is there more
I, I
coming
know I have
from the
so much stuff.
amazing Khalil Anthony?
You're so sweet. Ah, I feel like, yeah, I mean, like I love that you asked at the beginning what you want to talk about, and I kind of talked about some of the little sadness or whatever, or just the world, and then thinking about like, well, it's how you look at it, just all of these different perspectives and pivots, right? Like depending on what angle you're looking at anything, changes.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I don't know. I know I'm going through a lot of changes right now, which maybe it's a little bit more than I'm used to at once, which is
Mm.
just creating, what is it creating? More thought, more like spaces to sit, more rest, where I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. So, okay, let's read a book, or let's, go sit in the grass. But I do know what happens after this, right? It feels like I'm in this really interesting incubator period. And if I
Yeah.
look back at my life, those times are like these little moments of like you're chilling. It looks like you're chilling, but you're kind of just building up the energy for the spring off, right?
Yes.
With
The
the
like
pop
a
off, right?
hibernation. Hmm.
Yeah, but it's just this is a lot of changes because I was working at the Black Music Incubator and left there in June, and I had a roommate, and then I don't now, and I'm moving out the place, and Mexico City, and I'm traveling again, which I was doing extensively before the pandemic for work, and
Yeah.
now getting back in it, it's like you travel differently now, right? Like there's just so
True.
many ways to. It's interesting. Like that's my pride and joy is get on the plane. I love and live. I love a hotel. I love that
Mm.
stuff. And now it's just very different for me where it's like, well, it's different for everybody. I don't want to be selfish. I'm the only one who's been affected by this world pandemic,
Yeah.
you know. Um, no, it's very different and I'm appreciating the differences, right? Where it was like
Mm.
I didn't go rage out in Mexico City. I definitely was like, I did this and here and, took time and sat at cafes for hours and just had this really come back to me moment where it's like, okay, so I'm working on a screenplay right now. I have this album coming out well, I don't know when it's coming out, but we're working on the album.
Yeah.
And then these smaller projects that are happening in Bijou and things that are just part of the lexicon of me. And it just feels like with all the changes, it's like, okay, who am I? Right outside of all this stuff and then inside of that too. So I'm getting closer to those answers. And yeah, I'm very thankful for this conversation because I felt like I said a little earlier, I was like, kind of going through thoughts and just wishing things were different. And then I'm like, no, no,
Oh.
no, let it go, let it be, just be. I can be in the world however I want to, and I can see the things the way I want to see them, opposed to like the way the news is like so sensational, like da 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 da, the world is over in 3 days. You're like,
Yeah.
oh
That
no, you know.
that's exactly why, I related to when you said you slept up. Looked at the news. It's
Okay,
like,
slipped.
yeah, can't do that.
You
Because
can't do
they
that.
have their vibe. They're trying to sell ratings and
Mm-hmm.
share news in a way that keeps people engaged. And I'm not really about that right now.
No, it doesn't work for me.
No, no, thank you.
I like that voice. I think that's great. We're kind of like, no, we
Right,
submit to like not doing that.
right. Oh man, it's wild. Hmm. We didn't even talk about James Baldwin.
They're like, we'll never get off the phone. Goodness gracious. Like that to me, like he to me is like Prince to a certain like I mean more so
Mm.
James. It's so funny. Only because I guess well, I can't do that to either one of them. They're like both sitting here like, who? Which one you want? Him or me, honey? I'm like, both of you.
Oh, both. Why not
Both.
all?
Like all exactly. D, all of the above, right? Like
Hmm.
James Baldwin for me, because it's like I was such a nerd as a kid in this fun way. I was never ever like taunted for being smart. It was always great, encouraged, like you go. And I'm like, oh,
That's
read a million
awesome.
books. It was just fun. Yeah, it was just like a really good thing. And then when my hands touched his books, I don't know which. It must be Giovanni's. I'm
Yeah,
sure I heard his name way before I read the book, though, right? Like him being political on
right.
TV or something. And then when I read that, I was like, get the fuck out of here. It was just like,
Mm.
how dare you? Like just so, I got goosebumps right now. Like it
Yeah.
just changed my life. Like I had to be in my teens, but it was like, was definitely not uh, even in the know that I was there's a word I'm queer, I like boy. It was just like, oh, I'm
Right.
supposed to be straight. I'm supposed to have a girl. It wasn't I didn't I was kind of like regimented and I kind of just followed the leader,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
dangerous here. And when I read that, it wasn't like I was like, oh yeah, I like boys. It was just more like I love writing. I love how
Yeah.
layered this is. Like it's one, I mean it's a million parts, but I could just get caught on, like, when David and Giovanni first meeting her in that cramped cab and they're riding down the sand and you can just smell the cab. And you can smell, I was just like, you can just see. I mean, he's so brilliant with
he's a master
prose,
of
a
language.
master, a master, And then it's like after that, it's what's my one with Rufus and them, Another Country, and that I'm just like, like I said, I'm watching him speak as this Jewish white lady. Like he just can be anybody. He just, and it's like takes you to that ubiquitous of blackness, right? Like we create, we come from everything, right? I think not to try to trope our existence, but just like there's so much magic in being black to me, where he was able to just show me in this way where I was like, I'm down, let's go. I want to be everywhere, like the Paris, wanting to be in Paris is about him, or being in Europe, and then going and be like, I get it, and then seeing what he saw, or just having these fun experiences as a black artist. And definitely, I think Paris and Berlin, I've had the most like, ooh, you just feel like people, I don't know if it's exoticizing, but it don't feel the same as it feels here. And I don't know, I think sometimes, it's just, well, you're having these like we're having this conversation, but it'd be like with some stranger you just met at the bar, like, oh, what are you doing here? And you're like, oh, I do this. Like, oh, and then you're having these great conversations, not about race or your inability to see that you come from the same place, right? But about the work, and that I'm not, oh, I'm a human and you see me. No, it's like we are meeting somewhere else. But I think James Baldwin he was such a conduit for me, like a midwife to all of this that I'm experiencing now.
I love that.
I've been using that. It's whenever I can think about it, like for those people who really helped, give me life. He's huge.
Wow. We would definitely need to do another hour just on writing alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And definitely like dive deeper with James Baldwin and creative writing in general, especially since you are a playwright or a screenwriter.
Yeah. And I wrote my first novel published in 2012. Yeah. And I'm using that. I wrote the screenplay based off of that novel. So we should definitely check in again.
Yes, please. I would love that.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read your bio.
Okay.
And then we'll have some final words.
Okay.
And I think that would be a nice organic wrap to our amazing conversation that I did not have planned at all. Just because like I knew
those are the best.
It was just like there's a lot and it would do no justice to force anything. We just have to be where we are.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you made time for us to connect.
I am too.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a lifesaver. Not like I was going so far deep, but it definitely, I'm like, oh, right. Hey, like immediately we started talking. I was like, all right, let's go.
Yay. That's always my intention to kind of bring something of joy to people.
I'm happy.
Okay, so Khalil Anthony is a polymath, a multi-disciplinary artist working with various mediums and media. His work investigates the relationship between spirit and space, the Black body, sexuality, society, and the urban experience. A sought-after creative consultant and artistic director for BiPoc artists and brands, Anthony has worked with international organizations and businesses around cultural equity and strategic design. Khalil is also a multi-published author, art curator, and commissioned visual performance artist and entrepreneur. His latest works include Rebirth, of a Nation coloring book series for Black Joy, and the album Scarab, an international collaboration featuring artists from 7 countries around the world. Khalil weaves together artistic intentions through his writing, dance, movement, acting, painting, arts admin, education, as well as song. His work speaks to a diverse audience and varying communities. To our guest, Khalil Anthony, it's been an absolute honor to chat with you today. Definitely not the last. And I send you off to the rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful time in your new grounded space, peace of mind. And any last words you'd like to share?
I would love to share one of my favorite quotes by Rainer Maria Rilke. Let everything happen to you. Beauty and destruction. Just keep moving. No feeling is final.
I love that.
It's beautiful. I messed up. It's beauty and terror, but you know. Whatever it is, honey, just keep moving. Okay?
Professional. We are professionals.
Okay. And I was like, oops, I said the wrong word. I'm telling everybody. But we can move through destruction and terror and beauty alike, you know.
That's right. That's right.
I just want to thank you for this space, Ripley. Continue inspiring folks. This has been really fun, and I feel like I'm going to carry a lot of this energy throughout the rest of my day and make it fabulous. So I appreciate you.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
All right.
Yay.
Yay. Have a good day.
You too. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.